Hello, it is Taylor with Ty. This is our first episode of our live stream with talking about sports. You can send us a message in the comments if you have anything you want to say. We're always open to new things. And if you have any recommendations, let us know. We're going to start this off with a little bit of talking about some speed skating. Yeah.
Well, what is
So,
speed skating? Do they take speed?
well, taking speed, no. That's very much against it. But speed skating is where you have the specialized ice skates and you ice skate at high rates of speed. Um, Typically between 50 to 60 kilometers per hour. Um, and they go at they go on a larger track. They're at ice. I don't really know how else to really explain it other than it's like track and field on ice. That's the best way to describe it. Um, but ultimately, it is a very easy and, well, easy in certain ways, easy to keep track of. It's nothing real complex. There's no real hard things. It's just keeping track of your time. So, but in the speed skating, there is the distances um, anywhere from 10,000 kilometers, always as low as 500. I mean, 10,000 kilometers, absolutely. 10,000 meters. And we go all the way down to about 500 meters, which is a sprint practically.
Oh, so I guess there is sprinting.
In a sense, it
All
is
right.
kind of a sprint.
Sounds slippery.
Good thing the ice skates are nice and sharp. Very much. They have to be very sharp. The actual ice skates are actually sharper than you would actually think. They're actually able to, if you step on someone's finger, you'll be able to cut their finger off.
Just, just like my bad finger.
Very much so.
Um, how long is the track?
Well, the track is 400 meters, so it's very similar to a athletics track, is what you would see on a track and field day. Um, there's it's really similar in shape and size. It's the same oval shape. Straightaways are still 100 meters. So typically when we see the 500 meters, is they do a full lap and a little longer than a full lap. So they don't do the 400 meter like in the athletics USC. And don't really understand why they don't do 400 meters. I think it's just how they do it. But typically, when we're looking at all the other distances, we see a very good balance in how that works out for them.
So they have specialized skates. I guess they're better than ice hockey skates. I can learn
Well,
to talk words.
it's not that they're actually better. They have hockey skates have a very particular design to be able to give them the ability to make sharper turns and be more agile on the ice, where speed skating skates are designed more for speed. They're designed to be able to get up to a higher speed and maintain a higher speed with less effort. Um, and as a result, they tend to be long and more of a rectangular shape, where hockey skates have more of a curve on them. So the tips of them are curved and the back ends of them are curved. But ultimately, the skates are very much designed for the sport that they're doing them for. Just like figure skating skates are different than hockey skates. So it's not that they're better; they're just more designed for the purpose that you want them for.
Who competes in the meets?
So we see people from all around the world. It's not just local people. We see people coming from China, um, and I mean, our top competitors in the 10,000 were from the Netherlands and the Czech Republic. So I mean, when we look at that, going like where are these people coming from, it's all around the world. These competitions are held throughout the world, um, and typically it's people representing a country. It's not just anyone that wants to join in. It's you have to be represented by a country, kind of like the Olympics, but it's on a smaller scale.
I take it this plays a role in the Olympics then, definitely.
It very much does. So with this type of stuff, is you'll see it being more um, practice in a sense, um, because we see the people practicing in their own facilities, in their own countries, and all that. But this allows them to get more actual competitive practice in to lead up to the Olympics. It's not just um, going and just going fast you can on the ice. You're actually competing and building up that. And sometimes people that do these may be represented by a country, but may not make it into the Olympics because they did not perform as well as they hoped, and someone else outperformed them in their country. So sometimes you'll see these people competing in these and not make it into the Olympics, and sometimes you'll see people will make it into Olympics. Um, so it's more practice and allowing the country to pick out who is best for the Olympics.
What are results of the latest meet?
So the latest meet has quite a bit of results because we have the 10,000 men's, the 5,000 women's, 1,500 men's and women's, and then we have the 1,000 men and women, and then the 500-meter men's and women's.
Cool.
So starting off with the 1,000, the 10,000. And let me pull that up because I lost it. I got it back.
I hope they have plenty of steaks for the meat.
Plenty of steaks. What do you mean by that?
Hot dogs, ham.
Well, I don't know what they serve at the meats.
Hopefully a lot of meat.
Now I got that. Now I got that joke. Okay. Meat. Now I got that. That went over my head. So for the 10,000 meter men's, we had Italy, Czech Republic, and Norway for second and third. They started off at, well, we have a world record for first place. It was 12 minutes and 25 seconds. And then the second place was Czech Republic, and that was 12 minutes 37 seconds. So there was a big gap there. And we're looking at 12 seconds of a gap there. That is huge. The fact that it was actually that big of a gap, we don't see a whole lot of that within the first few places. So it's quite a big gap. But we did get a world record. The first world record, well, the previous world record was 12 minutes and 30 seconds. So that was a whole entire 5 seconds off of the world record. So that was a pretty big improvement.
Would that be a Guinness?
And then, so it is a world record. I don't know if it's considered a Guinness World Record because Guinness World Records are not all the world records. This is what's called an Olympic World Record. So these records are kept up, tracked with the Olympic Committee. And then this is also a track record too. So not only is it a world, but it's also a track record. And then third place was 12 minutes and 38 seconds. So we're only looking at, a second difference, not even a second difference between second and third. So when we look at that going like, between second and fourth place being only within a minute, it's a second of time gap, and we see the first place being 12 seconds ahead. That's a tremendous difference. And it's quite impressive that there's that much of a difference. So congrats to Italy on that one. And then for say again.
Technical difficulties. You froze, and then I had the spinning wheel. I think we're back now.
Okay, sweet. I have you up on the screen above, and everything else is down here. Multiple screens. It's really handy.
Well, you're right there.
Yeah, you're that way to me too. So, then we're looking at the 5,000 meter women. So the first one, the 10,000 meter, was men's. Then we have 5,000 meter women. You can almost say it's sexist to do that, but I don't think so. I think it's just something that we've always done. I'll definitely love to, and I would support a 10,000 meter women's. But there also should be a 5,000 men if they do that. But they don't do that.
Yes. Equal opportunities.
Exactly. So the first place for the 5,000 meter women was Netherlands. Second place was Netherlands. And third place was Czech Republic. First place was for 5,000 meters was 6 minutes and 45 seconds, which was a pretty good time. They set their personal best there. The world record for that was 6 minutes and 39 seconds, and the track record was 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Second place, as I said, was Netherlands, 6 minutes and 47 seconds. And then third place was 6 minutes and 49 seconds. So you can see that the gaps are a little bit bigger between these. So that's quite a bit of difference between when you see the men's competing and the women's competing. You tend to see more of a broad gap, but also you tend to see a lot more men than women. Because you look at the 10,000 meter, and we had just as much for the women's doing 5,000, but when we get into the other ones, we're going to see a different amount. What a wonderful view here. What do you mean by that? I can't actually see that full emote there. Let me pull that up better. I don't get a full display of the emotes, so I just see a little icon. Oh, that's a fist bump. Yay. Let's go for a fist bump. Thank you.
Yay.
But yeah, we are. Did I already review that one? Nope. Sorry. Lost track of where I was at there. So then we're going to get into the 1,500 meter women with let's start with the world record being 1 minute and 49 seconds. And the first place was Netherlands with 1 minute and 51 seconds, which was also her personal best. And then second place, we have Japan, which we actually do see quite a bit of good performers out of Japan, which is quite good. We're happy to see that. Um, Not that I support Japan or anything that they do. I'm just, seeing the international. We do see a lot of stuff from Netherlands in speed skating being up in the higher points. But to see Japan kind of be also up there is kind of a good thing to see other nations getting into this. And then third place was also Netherlands, and so was fourth place. So we see a lot of Netherlands. But that was the 1500-meter women. I'm going to close out of these so I keep track of what I'm on. And then the 1500-meter men's, we see United States. Let's go United States. That was first place with 1 minute and 41 seconds. That was a track record. And it was a track record by 1/10 of a second. So that was a pretty close track record there. World record was 1 minute and 40 seconds. Second place was China, and it was 1 minute and 42 seconds. And third place was Norway. Norwegian here. Got to go for Norway too. At 1 minute and 42, which was actually 1/100th of a second slower than China. That was a very, very close race there. And always happy to see those really close races. And this is where we see, between first and seventh place is 2 seconds of a difference. A whole entire whopping 2 seconds. And then when we see the 1500-meter women's, I mean, it was just as close, between first and seventh. We saw just a slightly higher number of a difference of a 2.5 seconds difference. So we always like seeing those close races. The 1,000 meter women. We also see Japan again in the lead at 1 minute and 13 seconds. And it was not good enough to be a track record or a world record. World record was 1 minute and 11 seconds. Second place was Netherlands at 1 minute and 13 seconds. And then we see China again in third place at 1 minute and 13 seconds. And we even see all right here is, between first and 20th place, less than 4 seconds for difference. So, I mean, you see such a big difference. You don't see a big difference as you would expect during these races here. When you see the longer races, you see a longer distance, slower times, and a lot more of a difference. But these closer and more sprint races tend to be a lot closer in times.
And what about the other skiing? Alpine skiing.
Oh, we're not even there yet.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, we still got a few more categories on the speed skating.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. Speed skating, there's a lot of races that go on. They're typically 3 days worth of speed skating. And typically about 4 hours a day worth of speed skating. So it's a lot of time that takes place on these. The 1,000 meter men's, we actually have a track record of 1 minute and 5 seconds. But you're still thinking, that's what, 2.5 times around the track and it's done within a minute. That's so much faster than than sprinting and run events. So, but that was what the United States put a track record in for first place. And then we see Netherlands in second, third, and fourth place. And now we're getting into the actual sprint part of it. We got 500-meter women. We see Netherlands in first, Poland in second, and Japan in third. Pretty close race there again, but that's what we expect to see in the sprints. And then we look at the 500-meter men. America is in the first, Netherlands and Poland. Poland actually took third and fourth place. And we do see a lot of personal bests in the 500-meter men's. So yeah, let's talk about the alpine skiing since we're to that point now. Yeah, there's a lot of events that happen, and that's just the individual races for speed skating. We actually get a lot more people that involve in group racing. We'll see another 4 more lists to name off there. So, but alpine skiing, well, so alpine skiing is one of the signature races that we see in the Olympics, Winter Olympics. It's a lot of times you see downhill skiing, slalom skiing. You see various different types, and the point to these is to get down the hill as quickly as possible, while also remaining within what's called the gates. Slalom skiing is what we're mainly kind of talk about starting off right now. But slalom skiing is where you're going down and you have to weave between the gates. And you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, going down the hill. You got 2 different types of alpine skiing. You got, 2 different types of slalom skiing. You have giant slalom and you got regular slalom. The giant slalom is where there's more speed. You take more wider turns. You don't have to be as tight on it. But slalom skiing is definitely the more technical skilled of the different types of alpine skiing. And each gate is a marker. There are 2 markers, and they signalize what you need to be doing on them. In slalom skiing, they'll tell you what side you need to be on of the stick. It tells you what you need to do with the sticks and all that, depending on their positions. And it's very complex on how to actually describe it. It's actually easier to show. If I had the ability, I would show versus trying to explain how each stick does its own purpose. But yeah, there are markers on the ground. There's various different ways to get disqualified too. It's not just, if you miss a marker, it's okay. If you actually miss a marker or cut a marker too early, still classified as missing. Or if you straddle a marker where one ski's on one side, and the other ski's on the other, that's actually what's called outskied or a disqualification. If you outski, you have to just get off. If you continue going down the hill and you find out that you missed it afterwards, or you didn't realize you missed it, you will be disqualified at the bottom of the hill. Other disqualifications are like if you fall. Obviously, skiing, you don't want to fall in the first place. That snow is packed hard and you're going at a relatively fast pace. That it hurts. Hurts a lot.
What type of alpine skiing is today?
So we actually have results from both the men's giant skis and women's slalom. the giant slalom and the women's slalom. Um, and this is where we have to kind of look at the differences because they're not the same. And a lot of people think that they're the same. The giant slaloms tend to be further apart. You do see a substantially higher amounts of speed in it. We were going to talk a little bit about downhill skiing today, but unfortunately, because of it being canceled over this weekend, we're not really able to talk a whole lot about that skiing today. We can kind of go into a little bit of details, but we won't have any results from this past event.
Darn, I guess that really went downhill for us.
It kind of did. I was actually kind of looking forward to it, and then we got canceled. I'm like, don't like when it get canceled. But
Me neither.
It gets canceled for several reasons. It was most likely weather related, which you'll be kind of shocked that weather in other countries is unpredictable just as much as here.
Shocker.
I know, right? It's a huge shocker. But we're first going to talk about the men's giant slalom. And we actually see Norway in first, second, and Sweden in third and fourth. First place with a total run. So you have two runs here, and I've kind of explained this so we can kind of understand how it works. So we have two runs. The first run is kind of like a qualifying run. If you don't meet the requirements on the first run to continue on to the second run, you stop. And typically it's like the first 30 people is what moves on to the second run. So the first run, we don't really see much of a difference. But the second run could literally move you up or behind in several places depending on how bad you perform or how good you perform. So like the first run, we were looking at a very short amount of time between first and second. But when we got into the second run, it made the gap 30 seconds of a difference. I mean, 0.3 seconds of a difference.
What type of alpine skiing we talking about?
This is the giant slalom.
Okay.
So this is in, I'm gonna butcher this name. Solmending. I cannot pronounce that name.
There's the way you pronounce that, there's definitely an innuendo in there.
It's Schladming. I'm not from I'm not from that country, so I'm not from Austria.
We don't want to offend Arnold's people.
We really don't. And I butchered that name of that city heavily. I know that. I've heard it said it 500,000 times, and I still cannot say it.
So that's all right. I butcher names all the time.
I mean, look at my name. People mispronounce the last name so much.
Look at people mispronounce Nyberg so much too, which is a very simple Swedish name. So
yeah, and Edelman. A lot of people called me Edelman. I don't know why they think it Edelman.
I don't know either.
I never understood.
Americans can't pronounce anything. Anyway,
it's the healthcare. Not the healthcare. It's the school system.
What are gates, and do they open?
So technically, you do have open and closed gates, um, which is interesting to talk about because it's not like, oh, it's a closed gate, so you can't go through it. But a closed gate is used for when so they have open and closed gates, and they use them for terms to describe what you're supposed to do in that situation. Um, so it's kind of it's weird. And that's where it's going into the positioning and how I have to kind of have a whiteboard to kind of show on what each position means to describe what a closed gate means and what an open gate means. But yeah, I've also realized that I gave Ty a script and I have not stuck to it very well.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm just winging it as I go.
I am too. Very much winging it.
Hey, that's what all the great sportscasters do. It seems like. I'm not gonna mention names, but
Well, it's one of those things that, as we try to have things more set in what we want to talk about and not so much actually having set stuff. And I think it's kind of has to go more off of that than having more set stuff. And we're learning how we're going to do this more efficiently.
oh yeah. What is the result of Audi FSIC?
So we mentioned what the first results were for the men's Solom, the giant Solom. The women's giant, and the women, we don't have the giant Solom because they didn't do one this past weekend. But this past week actually. But the women's Solom that they did. Oh, I don't know what country that is. Well, we have Sweden in second and Germany in third. I have to look up that country. Awesome. I should have planned that ahead.
Swedes.
Cortana and Croatia. Croatia. That is first place. Croatia. I was looking at that, and it gives you the abbreviation for the country. So CRO. I'm like, what country is CRO? So yeah, that was. And then
Congratulations.
Sweden second and Germany in third.
Yay! Swedes.
Right?
Swedes are second.
Yeah.
As a fellow 3/4 Swede, I'm happy.
Well, I mean, U.S. is all the way down in 10th place.
Well,
not do good.
Well, let's just say, hopefully, we can get better at our sports and the Olympics in 10 years or so.
Well, normally we do okay. But there are certain sports that we do better at than others.
Yes.
So, and as I said, we don't really have anything for downhill skiing, so we can't really talk a whole lot about it. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, we're going to be skipping that whole entire part of the script. And then we get into the F1, my favorite topic. This is going to be more of an open discussion, just kind of talk about it and all that.
Formula 1. Why don't you explain a little more about it?
So I'm going to actually cram two questions in one. And one of the things that a lot of people wonder, why is Formula 1 different than NASCAR? And there's a lot of different aspects to Formula 1 that's different. NASCAR is a stock car race, and the original founding of it was literally an actual manufactured car that you would buy and be able to use in daily life. And now it's evolved to this whole entire different type of thing.
And let's not forget the moonshining aspect of it too.
That too.
They literally made it just to outrun those Dane Smokies.
They really did. They really did. And NASCAR used to be a competition between manufacturers more than actually a competition between brands. But when we talk about F1, a lot of times we're going like, well, what is F1? F1 stands for it's Formula One. And Formula One takes up about 24 weekends of the year. And it goes typically from March all the way into December. So when you really look at that, going like, well, if it takes up 3/4 of the year, is it every weekend? And it's not. It's roughly about, you would have 2 races or 3 races, have a week off, do another 2 to 3 races, have a week off. And it consists of 20 cars and 20 drivers, but we are adding another team here in a couple years, and we'll be saying hello to Lamborghini because they are joining back into Formula One. And people always thought like, well, why did Lamborghini leave in the first place? And that's where, these cars are very expensive. It's not something that is heavily financially beneficial to race in these events. You don't get a whole lot of money out of it. You tend to spend a lot of money going into it.
You would think Lamborghini could afford that.
You would think, but for the cost benefit to analysis, Lamborghini decided, this isn't really beneficial for us. Where it was beneficial for them is in like the Le Mans or other races similar to that. They saw a big benefit in it because they did not have to spend millions of dollars on a car every season. I mean, this is one of those cars that we see here. And this is the 2022 model. But, we have these tires each are thousands of dollars for each one of these tires. The engines, they have to be replaceable because the engines only last half a season. So you have to replace that engine. And all this stuff gets damaged so easily. I mean, they're durable, but they get damaged. Like these front fins, they're replacing them every couple of races because of a wreck or something. So these cars are very expensive to maintain, build, and upkeep. And a lot of companies don't see them financially beneficial. And also, like the engineering goes into it is, they have to design their own car. They have to design their own engine. They got to design their own fuel for that engine and manufacture it all. And that's where another cost comes into is, just the design of it is outrageous. It's such a costly process and time-consuming process that typically these designs and making of the cars typically take 2, if not 3 years to come out with a new car. So even though you're seeing a new car every season, and sometimes, halfway through a year, you'll see a new car. But it's one of those things that it's so expensive and so much work to go into it that a lot of companies don't see it beneficial. Yeah. So we're going to see Lamborghini come back into it, but it's going to be a couple more years. We're getting 22 drivers total, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it is quite a few drivers for these tracks, especially when you're going at 200 miles an hour plus. It crowds the track more, and we can actually expect to see more accidents, most likely. But again, it will also be nice to see Lamborghini come in and see if they're able to match up with the leaders that we typically see, which is Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. So hopefully those top 8 drivers we can start seeing new drivers kind of stepping up, going in there.
Well, I guess the Red Bull people kind of cheat though because they have wings.
Well, I mean, metaphorically, the cars do have wings on them. So typically we call the front fins, we call them wings, the front wings. And we kind of have a few different names for them, but Red Bull does not actually give you wings. And funny fact about that is there was a lawsuit against Red Bull about Red Bull giving you wings. They actually had to change it to make it where it says Red Bull gives you wings and put an extra G at the end to make it where it's not actually saying you're going to get wings. Fun fact.
Wow, people, that people are interesting sometimes. What were the big highlights of last year?
Oh gosh. There's so much that happened. I mean, we have McLaren stepping up being a manufacturer champion, and that they haven't won in the past at least 20 years. They have not won, which, to see them actually getting a manufacturer's championship is quite impressive. We saw Red Bull driver Max Verstappen. He won his fourth seasons of the Drivers' Champion and has set a new record for Formula One for the fastest amount of time to win 4 championships. He defeated that by a whole entire whopping 1 week. So pretty much he won one race ahead of the other person. So yeah, we saw, him winning, making, big strides there. But Max Verstappen has a very tough driving ways. He's very aggressive on the track. So we would expect to see him getting up there into the championships. And we see him winning a lot of races because of his aggression. When people say that race car drivers have to be selfish human beings, Max Verstappen really shows that type of status. Where we see Lando Norris, he's Max's biggest rival. And we seen him up there constantly behind Max quite a few times, almost 3/4 of the season. You always see Norris behind Max. And he has a complete opposite type of driving patterns. Like how Max will push the rules and try to really force his way up. Max is a lot more by the rules. He's still a very selfish driver on the track, which is what you need to be a race car driver. But it's, we have these two drivers that are really good drivers, and they compete very well. We didn't see any major real bad crashes this past season, luckily. And we did see a few rough crashes, but no real big crashes that resulted in any serious injuries. So we kind of got lucky there. And we did have some wet races that were really unpredictable. So we definitely saw some various different track conditions that changed a lot of aspects of it. And another thing that we see different from NASCAR and Formula One is because there's various different type of tires that they use. Formula One does run in the rain. We do see them going full at it in the rain. They usually have to swap out tires for different tires. And we don't always see red flag stopping the race because there is rain. So we're definitely seeing the big differences between Formula One and NASCAR in that aspect too. I mean, we also look at, NASCAR being very much designed for longer races in a sense. Formula One is shorter races. Formula One cars are not able to be refueled in the pits. They have to be garaged to be refueled, which makes it just harder of a race. Because if you push that car too hard, you may end up running out of gas. You shouldn't, but that's a possibility. You definitely could end up running out of gas. And when you look at the car here, I'm gonna pull this car back out again. This is probably going to be my reference car most of the time talking about Formula One. Thank you, Lego. There's no real actual area to refuel, knowing that the gas tank is in under this area of the car. They could put areas to refuel, but also the FIA doesn't want refueling. It's an extra risk, it's an extra hazard that they don't want to add into the race. It's very much something that it makes the race more challenging, but also it doesn't make it where it's any less entertaining. So with Formula One, that's a big difference between NASCAR. And like I mentioned, we have different type of tires. We have wet tires. We got intermediates, soft, medium, and hard tires. So we see the different type of tires.
Do wet tires get wet?
Very much so. They're designed, actually, I don't know if I can get a good image of how these tires are. These are very similar to the wet tires that we see. So you see tracks on them. Where in the soft, medium, and hard tires are just a different compound type of a smooth tire. So it provides various different aspects of that type of stuff. So when we're looking at, the differences between Formula One and NASCAR, it's not just, the car either. We see differences in the tracks. NASCAR tends to be more of an oval track.
All you have to do is make the right turn.
It's not a right turn. It's actually a left turn.
Just non-dyslexia.
Non-dyslexia turn. Okay. So yeah, NASCAR typically only see left-hand turns going around set track, where Formula One tracks have a mix between wide turns, sharp turns, left turns, right turns. They have a lot more. They have hills. So there's a lot more aspects to the actual race that makes things. But also, unfortunately, I got to pull this car all the way back out again because this also provides another aspect. They have what's called DRS, and it's where the back fin here, the back wing, will open up to provide more aerodynamics in order to gain better speeds in straightaways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something else that we see with Formula One instead of NASCAR, because the cars are very much what they're designed to do, and that's it. They don't have any extra things that go into it that you would see. Other things that we see is, the history behind the races. Formula One has, with the races, we have track races, but we also have street races that we see in like Las Vegas. No. Trying to think of the city. I can't remember how to pronounce it. I have to look that one up real quick. It's not Mar-a-Lago. It is.
I don't know if we want to mention that place.
Monaco. That one there is a very notorious street track. And that one there is actually a really old track that we've been seeing races on for, 40, 50 years, if not longer. And then we got newer tracks like the Las Vegas there. We haven't raced there for over 10 years, and they brought it back just last season. Actually, not last season, season before that. They brought it back.
Cool.
And it was actually really big controversial when they brought it back because we had a major, not a direct wreck where it involved two people where they actually got injured, but one of the manhole covers weren't secured enough, and when one driver went over it, it lifted up a little bit, and then another driver went over it, and it ripped the whole entire bottom out of a car, and needed to have a whole car, pretty much the structure of the car was destroyed. The bottom of the car was torn out. So they had to repair that, but because it was so late in the thing, they had to start from the pit lane, even though it was a result of a object on the track. It came down to that the driver was punished for that. It was still a great race, and it was kind of funny because a lot of them tried to make it where people on the Las Vegas Strip couldn't see the race. Excuse me, wow. But ultimately, people found ways to watch the race, and the measures they took to prevent it didn't last very long. But the race was still successful for the past 2 years, so we're happy to see that. Other races we have are in Miami, and we have one in Austin, Texas, which for us to have 3 races here in the United States is kind of like, why the United States having 3 races? Especially since we don't see 3 races or even really 2 races in any other country except one. But it's not even that there's 2 races. Well, no, there is 2 races, but there's also a practice. It's the preseason testing. But we have Bahrain, and then we have Qatar. They're in the same country. So we see the races there. But we always see Abu Dhabi as the last race. Excuse me. We see Las Vegas towards the end of the season. We still see the Austin, Texas. We see that mid-late season. And then we see the Miami towards beginning of the season. This season is actually going to be starting at the end of February with practice tests, preseason testing. And then we start off in Australia. I do have high hopes for these races because we're having drivers changing around from 2 different other teams. So we're hoping to see other teams have a different strategy approach than what we typically would see. Japan has a pretty unique track. It's one of the only tracks. It's actually the only track for Formula One where you actually go under the other side and you actually cross over. But now, something that you don't really see is a pit lane going underground and crossing over to the other side of the track. So you exit out on one side of the track and you just get back on the other side. So it's very interesting how Abu Dhabi has theirs. We typically see in Brazil usually a rainy conditions in Brazil. This past season, it was actually pretty nice, which was kind of a shocker. But it was still nice to see that we have some changing conditions in some other places that we typically see different conditions. But got any questions, Ty?
Well, since we're almost through the hour mark, I certainly hope people are watching the whole thing on the rewatch.
Well, on the rewatch, we'll probably get people skipping through. So unfortunately, but
No skipping, people. Come on.
no skipping. We don't like skippers. It's all right.
No
Sometimes you
plain
got to find
hooking.
something more interesting going on.
All right. Well, well, I think this is a good little intro to sit down by the fire sports days or whatever, but I think we plan on definitely covering, all aspects of sports here. I know we're talking about doing the we're talking about doing the Olympics. I think we are talking about even covering the Super Bowl next Sunday. So
Yes. So Super Bowl. I actually have to get a time set for that. Sorry, squeaky chair. So we're actually going to be looking at doing that. It is next Sunday. We have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Eagles. So we definitely plan on getting that definitely covered. So definitely stay tuned to watch us watch that and react to all of that stuff and talk about it. So that's going to kind of throw off our schedule because we want to really do Mondays, but we're going to change it up for this Sunday to make it more for the Super Bowl.
And I know we're talking also about covering Lamont, which I'm going to need a lot of Dr. Pepper if I'm going to stay up for 24 hours. But and speaking of that, if I'm going to stay up for 24 hours, you guys better down below, get the Patreon and everything for Sit Down by the Fire, and that covers all aspects of Sit Down by the Fire. Also, if you really want to support me and Eric and Taylor too, we have merch at Pop Pop Tees. So
yep, definitely go look at the merch. We're gonna be getting some new stuff hopefully pretty soon here. We're gonna be doing some custom design stuff for that. So definitely stay tuned for that special merch to be released.
All right. Well,
all right. Anything else we want to add?
Don't skip.
Well, it's kind of too late. They'll probably by the time they see "Don't Skip" now, it'll probably be too late.
No, don't play hooky.
Don't play hooky. All right. We're hopefully pretty soon here going to be getting more ability to do monetization, which we will be able to get more stuff added as we tend to make money. We definitely would like you to head over to Patreon. Definitely helping us by subscribing to us for memberships on Patreon helps us be able to get more stuff for us to do better at these. So definitely follow that. And thank you for watching.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.